So good to be here today. I've been a little bit under the weather, and so I'm not 100% yet, but close. Ended up coming back with malaria again, but God has blessed me a lot to be able to catch it quickly and have the medicine on hand. So this verse in Acts 19 was so exciting to me as I participated this year in the Asia Mission Forum in Cebu, Philippines, and so I just wanted to show you a few slides. For example, how crazy big the city of Manila is, and don't get caught in a traffic jam. This was actually in Cebu. Mega malls all over the city, and souls everywhere. I think Jesus would like that. But the Asia Mission Forum was on evangelizing our cities together, and there were some people there that some of you will know. Really good attendance this year, just a little over 200, I think. Some of you remember Andrew and Uli Banjarnahor. They're in the Philippines. Ken and Debbie Xie and their two boys. Nathan Luther on the left there and his wife, their two sons in the back, and then Nathan's parents have been working there in the Philippines for, I think, almost 50 years. They operate a school there. Some of you know this Thomas, and of course June Fuentes, the one that asked me to come, and so I really enjoyed the visit there. June has recently graduated from Sunset and now has started the Heritage Bible College in Baguio City. He's done such a great job, really an encouragement to see how well this school is growing in comparison to all of the other schools in the Philippines. There are several, in fact. Spent most of the time there in Uganda, just over a month, I think, in Uganda, in the capital city. Still has the taxi park. I saw this taxi park first in 1997, 98, I think it was, when I went to that city with Isaiah Jackson and a couple of other South Sudanese at the time. It is phenomenal. It's supposed to be the public transportation, and the vans are owned mostly by private citizens, but quite chaos. So you literally have to hire a guide to take you in with your luggage to know where the van is that you're going to need to get to wherever you're going. People say that there's 30 to 40% Muslim there, but it's actually 15%. They're everywhere, so it's probably higher than the statistics, I would suspect. That on the top left is probably the biggest mosque in Uganda. Street preachers everywhere. I mean, almost every corner. And just yelling at the cars passing by, and it's very strange. But a preacher on the bus.
To inherit wealth. If we are to really enjoy God's riches, if we are to really enjoy His goodness without any interference.
And so you get this everywhere you go. Went to several different refugee camps. Started out in Kiriandongo. Some of you who have followed this work through the last several years are familiar with this from back when we had gone the first time. This is where I worshiped the first Sunday. They sing in Arabic and Acholi languages. The only reason they sing in Arabic is because they have an Arabic songbook, and Acholi songbooks are very rare. And so Acholi is their tribal language. That's the language that Isaiah spoke when he was in school here. But this is one of the many churches of Christ in the area of Kiriandongo. Kiriandongo has, I think, 52,000 South Sudanese refugees, and quite a mixture of things. This is another movie as well. I found out if you listen to this very long, it'll get stuck in your head. You can't quit singing it. Anyway, I put this church on my Facebook just the next day, and somebody donated $1,000 that we had requested, and just now received this morning reply to the request I made. Please don't make a church building with this $1,000. Build two. And they said, okay, we will. So they're planning on just building a shed. They call it a shed. And so they had begged and pleaded for a shed. Life is pretty manual there. Even though in that city, the city of Bweyeli, Uganda, where I sleep when I go into that camp, they have electricity. It's still just way above the price of capability for the Ugandan citizens and so forth. So there is electricity, but they don't use it usually. Life in the refugee camp is very, very basic. You may be wondering, what are those little white buildings? That's the bathroom. I'll show you inside of one here later. Mirei refugee camp is the first one we did a campaign in Uganda. You can see where it's located, just outside of the city of Adjumani. We were there to do a World Bible School campaign and sign up as many World Bible School students as we could, and that went fairly well. Ended up signing up a lot of students, ended up baptizing these two ladies as well as several others. We run into problems every single day. No, it's canceled, or not canceled, but it's put off for 2 hours, and so we'd get to speak, less than half of the time we had been given. And every day for the first week, there was something that didn't work, and so it was quite a challenge. We loved the little kids, and of course the white man was quite a novelty. And once they kind of got over their fear of that ghost-looking person, they started being friends, because they'd come up and rub my skin and rub my hair. You got hair on your arm, and they'd rub the white skin and then rub it on them to try and get some white in them. That's what they were doing, I was told. I didn't know that. But we would show the Jesus film to try and draw the crowds and announce the campaign and preaching. And the kids, of course, were swarming those Jesus films. It was really fun. I wanted to just see if Ed might be here today to see if this is a biblical church. The Blind Faith Missions Ministry mission headquarters. So we ended up having a little bit of teaching we actually had to kick the kids out because it was just total distraction, nonstop. And so if you were 14, we would let them stay in. And so we kicked most of the people out. and had a little bit of good Bible study, so it turned out a little bit useful there. The Midday Church House, in just a block or two away, or an eighth of a mile away, there's no blocks there, but one of our nicest church buildings, it has a cement floor. That's very rare. And so the order of worship, we ended up meeting here for our teaching on the third day, our last day there, and it rained so hard we had to stop completely for probably an hour because we couldn't even hear each other scream. Some of the members of the church there, a couple of sisters. Playing in the bathtub. That's the dish drain, in case you didn't recognize it. It's high enough that the goats can't get to it. This little girl was absolutely terrified at the white man, and she didn't know what to do. I had this
the Sunset School of Preaching in Lubbock, Texas. And this video course is entitled Biblical Interpretation.
I had this Portuguese solar player, and I transformed it into an English solar player, and
of the methods of determining the meaning
put the Acholi New Testament on it.
interpreting the Bible.
And this is our brother
Some
Nixon
people
that's
might
holding
ask,
it there.
Why? Why should we study such a thing?
The second campaign was held in Pagueirinha refugee camp. You can see it way up at the top there. There's probably a Pagueirinha somewhere right in there, right there. And right up next to the border of South Sudan, all of these people are South Sudanese that we're talking about in the refugee camps. And the kids just, when we get ready, trying to draw the crowds in, singing and announcing, we're here, come. There were kids everywhere. And of course, this is a primary school and an elementary school that it was at, and so the kids felt really at home there.
Lesson number 3 is the New Old and the New Testament.
That is Stephen Obalim. He is the one that's now in charge of the World Bible School Service Center in Bweyeli, right at Kidiandongo Refugee Camp. And so that's where all of our courses are distributed from. And we have those courses pre-positioned there. Just continuous distraction, not much teaching. I mean, we taught and taught and taught and taught, but there's just so much distraction going on that it couldn't hardly sink in. And those people are just almost as ADD as I am. So it was hard to get any concentration about what was going on. So the fourth day, the last day that we were there, I was able to sit down with the most interested adults and have a really good Bible study for about 3 hours, and that went really well. Hey, like them horns. There's some pretty good horns right there. Hollaback is the third place. It's not as big of a camp because it's new. In April of 2017, that's when the federal government came in with their machine guns and started shooting all the people of the village that we've been working in, the village of Pajok, and drove everyone away. They walked for many, many miles to get to the border. Let's see here, Hollaback. So they walked from right about here all the way to the border, which is 10 miles probably. And then they were loaded on trucks, but they stayed there for like 10 days and were hauled to this refugee camp that was new and unorganized at the time. I was hosted by Sisto and his family, a longtime convert, one of the early converts of Isaiah Jackson, and his wife, 2 daughters on the left and son on the right, and granddaughter. His son is actually his nephew. Both of his parents were killed in Juba in the recent Civil War. And so you see that everywhere. People have lost family members, parents, children. This is the hut where I stayed for about 8 or 9 days. It was a lot of fun. Stayed under a mosquito net, but came back and got malaria anyway. The women worked like so crazy, non-stop. They just don't stop. They're working before I get out of bed. They're working after I go back to bed. And so, cooking, hauling wood from wherever they can possibly find it, hauling water, fixing meals, working in the garden. They work hard. The men do practically nothing. The son would take the goats and the sheep out to graze during the day, and that was it. There's the laundromat, and the baptistry, I suppose. We started out really good numbers, 87 in the classroom, and things went so well. Great chance to teach, and everyone was listening so attentively, taking notes, and really excited about it. Now, a lot of the people there were there because they wanted food from the white man, because that's what normally happens. The white man comes, and food and benefits of whatever kind show up with him, and that's what they expect. And I mean expect in all of these places where I travel. And so that number went down. My ear moved and I lost my. That number went down considerably. Even the second day. This was 7 days of preaching and teaching, the Let the Bible Speak course. But the number stayed up to about 50-ish all the way through. Baptized, I think 5, maybe more. I didn't make a very good count, but that was pretty exciting to see the Lord working through that teaching and preaching. This young 12-year-old girl had come Sunday morning real early to be baptized. She was there when I got out of bed, waiting, her and her mother. Her mother had been going to the lessons every day, and so she came home after each lesson and sat down with her 12-year-old daughter and taught her what she had learned in class. And so she came early Sunday morning. We were leaving Sunday, and so she wanted to make sure. I had a motorcycle wreck right there and kind of busted myself up a little bit. It turns out that the motorcycle that turned right in front of us was alcoholized, and so natural grass like we used to have in the USA, see? Of course, that was long before I was born, probably, but it rains all the time. It was rainy season, so it rained every day pretty much. You have to learn to accept the food. You don't have to like it, you just have to act like you like it. And for them, this is top-of-the-line food. I mean, this is what they would offer the American guest. And so on the top left is peanut leaves mixed with their homemade peanut butter and sesame seed butter. And the white is maize, corn mush. They eat only with their hands. On the right is chicken, and they just make a little handful of it into a ball, punch a hole in the middle of that ball, and use it as a little bowl, and then eat it. Kind of neat. Oh, there's the bathroom. That's enough of that. And here's one of the church buildings, one of the nicest church buildings too. In fact, it's probably the nicest church building in Pallebeck. One of the nicer congregations. There are 10 congregations in this particular camp. Nice pews. They're comfortable for about 10 minutes or so at the most. They're all right. Temporary buildings, just tarp roof, but the rest of it's just mud and sticks. After worship, or they call it after prayer, they auction off the contribution, and so I bought a couple of pumpkins and whatever, and I outbid somebody, and here's some beans and some other beans or corn or whatever somebody contributed that Sunday. After worship was the traditional greeting circle that Isaiah started many years ago. Very beautiful tradition. And each person greets each person. I don't usually partake very much just because I'm trying to get a picture of it, you know. But it's a very beautiful tradition. Then we had our ride home is about 65 kilometers to the nearest pavement, and about 4.5 hours to go there. We ran out of gas right here, and not much to do, and so we had to all get out of the van a few times and just walk, and because the van was not powerful enough to get up the hill. Not much of a hill either. And then by the time we got there, I was just covered with dust. Pretty dusty. In 1997, Isaiah Jackson graduated from Sunset, and this picture, one of the brothers in Bidong Church pulled out of his Bible. And I could recognize it because this was in 99 when Isaiah was first building the Kiriandongo Church of Christ building, the biggest church in Kiriandongo. Most people in Kiriandongo know Isaiah personally. Isaiah is now in Houston with his family with terminal brain cancer. And he's had 2 surgeries and just not doing well at all. Please pray for Isaiah and his beautiful family. But in the first, I think, 7 years or so, something like that, Isaiah had baptized over 3,500 people. Many of those in the Kiriandongo refugee camp. And so he is well known by the people there. By the way, on the far left there is Andrew, who is, I think, a relative, but one of Isaiah's earliest converts, and now Isaiah's replacement, pretty much, I believe. And so we're so thankful for the men Isaiah has trained and taught. I think I may have just a half a minute left. I wanted just to thank you for praying for me. This is the work of God, I hope, and plan and expect, and so please continue to pray. I hope to keep going back to Uganda. I work mostly in Mozambique and some other places, but Portuguese speaking. And so please continue to pray for me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Maybe you will consider doing something like what Isaiah did, or maybe June Fuentes and what he is doing. But please make your plan big according to the big faith that is in you. Thanks so much. God bless.